when I finally got the script myself and got to read it, I didn't really have a sense of what the story was going to be, and certainly Marybeth's place within the story. So to say I was pleasantly surprised is an understatement. And it's another great mystery. It's another great puzzle that, from where you start at the beginning of the movie to where you finish, I didn't anticipate kind of the twists and turns it was going to take. And I think this is going to be one of those movies that once you get to the final frame, you're going to want to start from the beginning and rewatch and sort of look for those hints and clues and see what you missed the first time around. In the sequel, we essentially see Marybeth become the new Ray King. She is now deputy director at FinCEN, and essentially she's getting tips from Justine at Harbor Neuroscience in the same way that Ray did. And I think there is that battle within her of, being successful in this position, but simultaneously understanding that there's a little bit of an advantage that she has. And I think wondering, could she have done this without the tips? Could she have done this just of her own volition, with her own hard work? So I think there's discomfort in that, and knowing that she's kind of, cheating, for lack of a better word, in some ways. But ultimately, she wants to be somebody that is on the right side of the law, that is observing her own moral code, and making sure that justice prevails. So I think she can kind of, make that justification, but there is that uneasiness about how she got there. Well, Marybeth is definitely someone who wants to follow the letter of the law. Again, has a very strong moral code, isn't a rule breaker. And Christian and Brax keep sort of pushing her line of what she is comfortable doing or willing to do to get closer to solving this case. Obviously Christian or Brax are two sides of the same coin. And they essentially, in her eyes, are criminals, and they use criminal means to, get answers, do the things that they do. So, of course, there's, to say that she's uncomfortable with that would be would be an understatement. And at a certain point, it becomes a question of, can I continue working alongside these guys, or is this going to be something that I'm going to have to, finish myself on my own? I think at the end of the day, people want to see themselves in stories, in movies, but they also want to see their loved ones, they want to see their siblings, they want to see their parents, their children, their peers. And I love that in telling this story centered around a neurodivergent character, sort of subverting whatever expectation there might be around what that person's like, what that person sort of strives for, hopes for, fears. And I think that's my favorite part about, this particular world, and why I think people respond to it so much. I think with the character of Christian Wolff and the way Ben portrays him, you have somebody that they have this real physical presence, very tall, almost arguably imposing in certain situations. And yet there's also this vulnerability. It's like the person that you want to sort of reach out and give a hug to. And so you've got these two sort of opposing ideas embodied in this one character. And I think, of course, you're rooting for Christian Wolff, especially once you really know the depths of his origin story and how he sort of arrived at the point that he arrived at. And I think Ben does this amazing job, and I think it's why people really responded to him in this role, that he sort of plays both of those things. A guy that should be feared in any kind of altercation, but also clearly, longs and yearns for being able to just express certain things, for connection, for things that, we all can relate to in that sense. I can't say enough good things about Gavin and the way he sort of helms and steers this ship of a film. I think what everybody brings to it in terms of their work and their dedication and their skills, it starts at the top and it starts with him. And I think that he has such a clear vision for what this story is and how this story unfolds, that I trust him so completely, because I just know how thoroughly he has examined every detail, every plot point, inside and out. And so once you feel that sense of security with a director and you trust them that much, it just makes it, such a joy, because you feel like you can really try for things and you can explore things in real time and you can collaborate and really talk through things. And so it just makes it a lot of fun. I think that The Accountant 2 is one of those movies that ticks all the boxes and does it in a way that keeps you guessing throughout. So even from the first frame and that first sort of moment, you have no idea where this movie's going to end up, and it's going to surprise you. And I would also say that it's a good excuse to go back and watch the first one as well. So I think both this movie as a rewatch and the first movie, it's like an onion. You just keep peeling back the layers, discovering new things. And I personally love movies like that, something that with every watch you kind of discover something new.